Yeah, we took a little holiday break off, and we're back talking about Marty Supreme, the new Josh Safdie film with Timmy Chalamet. And you might want to go to the experts for your opinions on anxiety films. What do you call this? The new anxiety wave?
Yeah, I call it anxiety wave.
But some like it unauthorized. And I am Jay Brooks Young.
And I'm Zach Domes.
And yeah, I got to see this shortly after it opened on Christmas. And then I came to visit you, and we saw it together last night. So
you were the Christmas Day attendee.
Yeah.
Christmas Day, as Chalamet wanted everyone to know. So this was your second time. So yeah, what were your thoughts overall?
I really like it. Good pot. That's all. That's all needs to be said. No.
This is like I want to at the end of this. I want to be like, please subscribe to the podcast. I need you to subscribe. I need subscribers. I need followers. I need listens.
We could just get to 100 subscribers.
Yeah, that's all I need, man. That's all I need.
We're going to be able to go to Cannes and become the #1 podcast in the world. And then we'll bring you 10 times better content.
I need to get to France.
Yeah, it's fun. We both saw Uncut Gems and loved it and kind of got on board with this Safdie style. And this is a big level up for Josh. This is a movie star, a big budget, a really impressive crew, and kind of like an epic story here. And I think he accomplishes the assignment. Like, this is a kind of weird but very crowd-pleasing, entertaining film, you know? And there's some themes and stuff you can start to pull out of it, but first and foremost, it's really entertaining, just in like a classic Hollywood sense. Like, there's stuff to think about, but you can just go along on the ride. And I think he's showing that he's got the chops to make some of these films, and they'll be the best type of big, entertaining films that you'll get to see whenever one of them comes out, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you know what I think about it is that like Sean Baker did Anora last year, and that won Best Picture. It also won the Palme d'Or.
Yeah.
And it's a great film. I think some people have questions about it being a Best Picture, but I think that part of the reason why is because there wasn't a lot of crowding out of that space last year. Its competition was a little easier, you could say, and that's why Anora gets that pick. Do you think that had this come out last year, it could have been a contender? Like, do you think it's that? Do you think did you appreciate it that to that level?
Definitely, yeah. I might put it above Anora.
Right.
They're definitely similar films for me, where I think what they're doing in this like anxiety thriller space starts to crowd out those ideas at parts, and you can almost feel like it becomes a little contrived. All these complicated plot machinations, the way that they go to the farmhouse to go get the dog, and then they're going to go back a second time later on with the gangster guy, have the shootout each time, and you know, it's really bombastic in a way that you can kind of feel like it's a little shallow sometimes. And I kind of felt similarly about Anora. Like, it almost boiled down to just a weird kind of anxious comedy, that film. So like they would have been, I would have ranked them similarly last year, I think.
This year, of course, the space is crowded out by people like Paul Thomas Anderson and
Yeah.
what are you going to do there? Their hero. They're up against their hero. In some sense.
I know.
Yeah.
But I know. So with Anora, I think people are going to want to celebrate kind of younger filmmakers coming in and making something that's really exciting and gets back to a type of filmmaking that hasn't been as popular as in trend, whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah, in vogue.
And not just the style of film, the genre, you could say, the kind of subgenre that it is, but also the way that they have devoted themselves to a certain theme. So that's partly why I'm mentioning Nora, is because they remind me of Sean Baker in how they've been committed to each their own, theme. Sean Baker being sex working industry, and then with the Safdie brothers, kind of more like people who are obsessed with something, uncut gems, diamonds, and here ping pong, and what that leads them to. So
the hustlers.
Yeah, and it's the progression of an idea through every one of their films. I differ that this is different from Paul Thomas Anderson to some degree. Mm-hmm. Every one of his films feels a little different. He kind of changes things up. With these guys, it's like they're very specific with what their goals are. It feels like in terms of a theme. I'd be interested to see where they go from here. I do think that both Baker and Safdie brothers will depart in some way at some point, especially Baker, that he's won that award, but we'll see.
Yeah. I wonder. They might have different ideas of where they want to take their careers. I think Baker seems to really value staying independent, and I could see the Safdies and Josh being like, let's play with the studios. Let's go the kind of Scorsese route and make this bigger and try bigger and bigger things.
Yeah.
But yeah, we'll have to see, because they both really succeeded at kind of announcing themselves on a much wider stage.
They did. And with Marty, this is a period piece. And I loved how it felt as a period piece. I mean, all these old cars in New York, Marty's running through the street of New York, and I think it's what they're doing with the score. Daniel Lopatin, of course, he has this kind of 80s sounding synths that do not match the period of which this is being shot, and the way that Timothy Chalamet is acting, and a lot of the acting and how they talk, not at all how they would have talked back then. And yet at the same time, I feel like I'm there.
Yeah.
I like how they didn't worry about whether it's, it's precisely the way that someone would have sounded back then, or the music or anything like that. They make it look like it is. So that transports you. And I had the feeling like that's all you really need, is just the look of it setting you there.
Yeah. It feels close enough. And it would be distracting to have all these actors doing the accents from the time, speaking in those ways. I mean, that goes into the casting and stuff. Like, Safdie really knows how to cast and pick people for certain roles where they just have to kind of be themselves, and they fit perfectly because they've been cast perfectly, and there's not a false note where they try to act like something that they're not. Kevin O'Leary in this movie is perfect. He has a very big role in it. I don't think he's ever acted before, but he's exactly this guy, this really sleazy businessman guy, and he fills up the screen the whole time.
Yeah, he does. He does a fantastic job, and Tyler, the Creator, being another. So each people who have had in their own ways chances to act in what they do, but have never been in a feature film. So yeah, the way that they can find these guys, cast them in these roles, and then those performances are filled in by those people. It's incredible.
Yeah, and I don't know. I started thinking more about performance because it feels like a theme of the Safdie brothers movies is the way that we perform in interaction with other people, and the way that every interaction is like this negotiation. And everyone in their films kind of speaks in like an argument, the negotiation of what can I get from you? What do you want from me? Sort of thing. And I don't know, there's like Marty is a really interesting character to study in that respect, because he is so single-minded about his goals, and it feels like he'll do anything and he'll become anyone he needs to be to get ahead and to accomplish those goals of just putting himself on top.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know who the real guy is. It's sort of, you're left to wonder, is all of it him? Is performance the person, sort of?
Yeah, and then that's, that dips back into this idea that the characters is very much in the gray in terms of his struggle for success, his at times being manipulative of those who are close to him. Mm-hmm. He seems to be doing it at times sincerely, like if he makes a deal that's in favor of him, not the other person, but then he says, like, in the long run, it will benefit you. You want to believe that that's true.
Yeah.
But you never really know, because he's a manipulating kind of, wheeling and dealing kind of guy. But again, there seems to be a kind of spirit to him that's also lovable, at least for me. I had seen reviews ahead of time, a couple people saying that they couldn't stand his character. They thought he was too whiny or stuff like that. And I see that to some degree. I do see that, but I think I don't know. There was something deeper beneath that surface.
Well, you said we all have a little bit of the bratty kid in us,
Yeah. I didn't think that it was as extreme as it was. I didn't think that it was, anything totally crazy. I feel like I've seen worse characters portrayed in films. I felt like, we all have a little bit of all of these characters. Any movie you see, we all have a little bit of that in us. There's a little dark side here and there. And so it's relatable if you can acknowledge that and admit that within yourself. You go, I've kind of done that before and whatnot. And I've learned my own lesson. And this is a movie in which, just like any other character study, the character has some understanding at the end, or at least the audience should, by the end, kind of realize what behavior was good or bad.
Yeah, and I think you can kind of relate to him hinging all of his success on himself. Everything that he's going to get is going to come from how he can show other people, how, like, exceptional he is. Whether it's the ping pong or just saying, I can play a character, I can sell to a crowd, I can be a popular icon, or I can understand the business and I can, sell things and make you money, make us both money. It's like it all comes back to his capability of doing this stuff. That's what he is selling. He's selling himself to everyone. So there's something relatable there of just like, you can try to trick someone, but we all want to be recognized for our own capabilities at some level. We all want to succeed on our own merit, and all of it, it's like in the bigger game, in the wider capitalist scheme, it's how do you play that game? Everything is meritorious under that system. And that's the funny thing. It's this American thing of like, why are we so interested in the hustlers? And it's because we all know deep down that that's how you get ahead. It's to be willing to do all of those things, go the farthest that anyone will go. We might not like the system, but we understand that that's the reality that we live in. And so you can kind of appreciate someone coming from a poor background, Jewish in America, discriminated against, wanting to play the game to the fullest extent and try to reach the top. Like it's that feels natural, that feels human in some way. But then at the end, he kind of realizes there's a different victory. Everything he was trying to do to put himself ahead didn't compare, or at least there was another path for him in becoming a father, in passing on himself and seeing himself, continue in the world. That child having the chance to try their best to get ahead in their own way, because for groups like that, whether it's lower class, whether it's Jewish or whatever, it's almost impossible to get all the way ahead the way that you want to. But the successes that you continue on, your family or your people or whatever, have that chance the next generation to try again, to make a better life for yourselves. That starts to make it sound like Marty's, very altruistic. I think it's still very personal and kind of narcissistic what he wants to accomplish. But I don't know. There's an overlap there. Yeah.
There is. Yeah. Yeah, as I said to you, that opening cut between the fertilized egg to the ping pong ball is so important, right? Because that's going to be the dichotomy to look through, the lens to look through for the rest of the film. His struggle to try to become the best ping pong player is also his struggle to avoid what he thinks is mediocrity, getting stuck with some job as a shoe salesman and being a father. He's running from that and towards being the best ping pong player in the world. And that also breeds a sense of dissatisfaction, because if you win a game in some championship, it's just a one step up, but it's not the final step.
And you have that previous generation telling you, look, this is great what we have right here. We can have businesses, we can have our little apartments. Like, let's play it safe. We just saw all this atrocity in World War II, and we have this little bit right now. But Marty really feels like he has been destined by God or whoever. He's got the gift. He's got that purpose, as he says to Rachel. And I have to see that out. This is what I got from the library. J. Hoberman. Everything is now the 1960s New York avant-garde. Primal happenings, underground movies, radical pop. Just came out this past year. And it's good. It's very, very detailed about all the different stuff. The performance art that was happening, the films. Hoberman's a film critic, primarily. The jazz, the music that was happening. I mean, John Cage comes up. Of course, all the film people. Sontag is writing about it. It's pretty incredible.
Only in a nice, library system can you find that thing, right? That's nice to be in the city of Chicago.
Hey, yeah. You get all the latest stuff.
Yeah.
Shirley Clark, The Connection, talks about the original play when that was getting put on in the late 50s. And that was a really big deal. It ran for 70 shows or something like that. All kinds of people came to see it, big, well-known people. And then, of course, Shirley Clark gets the rights to it and makes the film version a couple years later.
Very cool.
But it's all happening. You'll find a lot of different characters in New York.
What a time.
What a time. How do we get back to this, When all this stuff felt new, felt radical, transgressive.
Well, I've said this to people who I know. When and if it happens, it's not going to be. You're not going to see it online. Mm-hmm. You're not going to see it online.
Well, maybe you will.
No, I don't think you will. And the reason I don't think you will is because now what happens online is it. Well, maybe you will, but the chances that you will be very, very, very small. Because anything that will go viral, anything that goes viral, it destroys itself immediately. Unless it's something that's already well known. Like Timothy Chalamet going viral is not, that's nothing. That's not what I'm talking about. Any person that comes up from somewhere and they go viral and trend, they disappear as soon as they came on the scene. Doesn't stick. Nothing sticks in this media world the way that the algorithms work. Nothing has substance. It's very difficult to find substance in that. And if you want something that's avant-garde and underground, a lot of those types of things are very free and playful and creative. It wants to be organic. And the way that ever worked, and any movement that was like that previously was very organic, very grassroots. And I'm telling you, viral stuff online, it does not work for people who want to be grassroots. So I think keep everything offline as much as you possibly can. Share it in a way that's much more natural and organic. That kind of thing. And I think eventually it will happen and we'll come back around.
I think that's mostly right, but I do think the connections, the groups that can be made online are important, and those are probably the most analogous to that time when the most valuable commodity was the time that they had and the very, very little money that they had to spend on rent and just being able to survive and being able to make art cheaply with found materials or cheap film, outdated film or whatever. And the commodity now is that digital space, being able to just put something on a platform that you can film with your phone and create art with that and connect with other people that are doing that without that having to be localized to a specific place. And it's difficult, and I think, you probably aren't seeing the types of movements emerging in the same way because it's hard to have a kind of sustainable relationship to that stuff and consume it in a way that's thoughtful with the bombardment of stuff that you get online. That's the contradiction, is I think the best way to make those connections and form groups or movements right now is online, but it's hard to stay focused and thoughtful about what you're making and what you're interfacing with from other people. Yeah.
And I think also at that time, the university system was not what it was now in terms of film studies. It was just not as well established. You could go to school and learn about film and all that stuff, but today that is a massive kind of system. And I think there's this thought that's crept in throughout the art world in various ways, where you gotta go and learn. Like, if you want to play music, you gotta go learn music. If you want to play, it's not that everybody has that, but that what it does is it does take away some aspect of it, takes away from that totally underground creativity, because you are a part of now, kind of a more rigid authority, and that has its purpose, but that it also kind of stamps out a little bit. You've got professors that will have their ideas. You have students trying different things, and some of those professors are going to say, "No, you can't do that. You can't do this," and it's just another voice of course correction. Follow what's been done. Blah blah blah.
It's trying to appease that audience, or having to keep that audience in mind of a greater academia, like we were talking about with the audience of a short film. Who do you want it to be for? And if you go too wide, is that hindering what you're making? And that's the other reason why I think it has to happen online, is there's much that's not as established as a place of study, really. And we're not looking to short form internet videos as like art in the way that they weren't really looking at these short avant-garde films at that time as art.
But that's to say that it very well probably is happening now. And the deal is that if it's underground, it's underground. That's called underground for a reason.
Well,
you probably don't know about it. It could be happening now. Go online and try to find short form content, experimental videos that these people, there might be certain people who only post on Instagram. Mm-hmm. These kind of wild, short form, crazy videos we don't know about. How would you find it?
I know. I feel like I've seen the most interesting stuff that I've watched in the last 5 years on like TikTok, but I deleted TikTok off my phone a couple months ago. Mm-hmm. That's the problem. I do now want to kind of get back on there, try to be more intentional and a little more academic about it, and try to look for that stuff. But it's tough to plug yourself into that platform because it is addictive.
Many years ago, I want to say probably 20, 25 years ago, a guy started a website called Boom with 7 O's. So it's like boom.com. Mm-hmm. And at the time, for me and for some people I know, he was featuring artists that were kind of doing different things, paintings, pictures, stuff that, you wouldn't have seen online or necessarily anywhere. And if you wanted to try to find it, it would have been very tough. You could go onto Flickr.com and try to find those photos, but it would have taken you a long time. He created a platform where suddenly he's featuring certain things, and then other artists reach out to him to get featured. And now, if you go there, like my wife and I are photographers, so I'll be like, we'll see a photo and we'll be like, oh my gosh, that's so boom. Mm-hmm. Because he curates in a certain kind of style, and when he looks for a certain kind of style. That's one way to sort of cultivate that, is on TikTok to have some kind of grouping, a reposting account that shares various, underground, whatever it might be, video artists or whatnot.
Yeah. Tumblr has kind of been that at different times.
Right.
YouTube is these video platforms can be pretty restrictive too, which is kind of an issue.
But no, it's kind of an issue, but I think it's also not. I think that's the whole idea. Limitations and then finding ways to work around. Yeah. Tumblr goes away. You go and you work with the limitations of whatever next comes up.
Yeah.
Let's have to think of the limitations they had in the past. There's always going to be various limitations. And they are positive in that they cause one to get creative. Yeah. But one of the things I didn't love about Marty Supreme is that there was a few too many times them kind of telling you why they are struggling. I felt like the dialogue that was a little too much. Well, you gotta get out there and fight for yourself and be your own man. And I felt like it was a little too on the nose, a little too did they need to have dialogue that was describing what he was doing? You can already see he's out there fighting for what he wants. You don't need to have him tell you as well, or tell somebody else. I don't know. I thought at times it just felt a little too much.
Yeah. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of dialogue.
There is a lot of dialogue
in the film. A lot of it's really great and funny, but it does really hit you over the head sometimes.
There's times he does that, and the other thing is there's the dichotomy between the first initial cut where it's the fertilized egg which turns into the ping pong ball, and it's this dichotomy between him running away from mediocrity, a life where he's feels like he's going to get trapped, settle down, become a father, have a job that he doesn't love. So he's running towards becoming the best ping pong player he possibly can be, running away from this life of mediocrity. Any time that he wins a match it's always along the way. So it's always going to be this endless dissatisfaction, I won a match, but it's not good enough. I won this match, not good enough, because it will never be good enough until he wins the final match. Even then, you win that match, well, you got to win it again. So it's just, you're always dissatisfied in that with the kind of mindset that he has. By the end, he wins this match that doesn't mean anything, and he finds satisfaction in it. That's the character arc of finally realizing the love of the game. He had the love of the game change into love of himself, becoming somebody incredible. But he finds the love of the game again back towards the end.
It does seem so, yeah. What's this movie called? Marty Supreme.
You just say, we had a little, slight technical difficulty there and had to take a short break, but we're back. We were talking about a little bit about the Oscars this year, and was this movie the kind of movie that you could see winning it had it been a different year? I certainly could, but of course we have Thomas Anderson,
So yeah, this won't be Josh Safdie's moment, almost certainly, but it'll be interesting if he continues to do the same thing or similar things and the Academy stops treating it like it's new and novel and really noteworthy.
Right. The next film he does is a kind of a slow burn, very meditative. That would be that'd be quite a shock.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because he has talked about this film being somewhat autobiographical, and that he felt like this was his life trying to get Uncut Gems made for years and years. And then kind of post-pandemic, but after Uncut Gems came out, he got married and had children.
Mm.
And suddenly, he had a kind of different perspective on things.
Mm.
The way that Marty seems to have a new perspective at the end of the film.
It also felt that way with PTA a little bit,
Yeah.
a little autobiographical with one battle after another. So we have these directors kind of having done a lot already and kind of thinking, now's my chance to really put my own self and life into the film. And then again, it just begs the question, what's next?
Yeah. Did we say Ronald Bronstein's name before? I feel like it's worth talking about.
It is worth talking about. So a friend of mine and I, we just sort of happened to watch Frownland. I don't know if it was featured on the Criterion Channel in some way. It's on the Criterion Channel, I'm pretty sure, though. But anyways, we ended up watching it. And yeah, I've said this many times in this podcast already. I just love these films so much. They make me laugh more than some comedies do.
Yeah.
And Frownland is another one of those. And Frownland, of course, as a lot of the people in the film world know, is the movie that starts this whole, reignites this trajectory of anxiety films. You do have Festen by the Swedish or Danish director.
Lars von Trier. Is that what you said?
It's not Lars von Trier. It's the other guy. Both of those guys did the Dogma 95 movement.
Well, that's a Thomas Vinterberg.
Yes.
You're a guy.
Yeah.
Another round.
That's right. And so he does Festen, which I think was, kind of out of nowhere in 1990s. Very anxiety, very handy cam, quick cuts, fantastic film. And it has the whole anxiety code written into it. And then Paul Thomas Anderson's Punch Drunk Love. That's one where he does it first, in a way. He finds Adam Sandler.
Yeah.
And he finds all the other character that he could play, casts him as that, and does a fantastic job doing that. In the interview that we listened to with the Safdie brothers, they saw that. It blew their minds, and so they probably created some sort of vision of casting him in Uncut Gems, which they do, but it all starts with Bronstein creating that low-budget, wild film where the main character in Frownland is just sort of constantly scratching his head, stumbling over his words. He's having an anxiety attack the entire movie. And you don't even know why. It's just sort of the way he is. And it probably, I don't know how well they knew each other at the time, but it becomes inspiring to the Safdie brothers, who then work with Bronstein as the writer for Good Time, and then for Uncut Gems, and then for Marty Supreme.
Yeah. And it's become kind of an imitated style. I mean, If I Had Legs, I Kick You is directed by Mary Bronstein, his wife.
Yeah.
But a lot of films in that kind of A24 or indie vein are using these sort of techniques as well.
Mm-hmm. Mary Bronstein was also in Frownland.
Of course.
She plays in it. And then there's one other guy who's he's like a DJ character, a roommate of the main character.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Thomas Anderson casts him in One Battle After Another.
Oh, right.
This guy's first acting gig since Frownland. Because he's more of a musician. So, and that's to say that Paul Thomas Anderson knows this world and he knows those guys. And he's always looking to independent filmmakers to see what they're doing.
Yeah.
Bronstein co-writing this with Josh. One thing to think of there, and we mentioned, is that Benny's trying to do his own thing, and the success of both films kind of indicate maybe these brothers should stick together. It's nice that Benny went and tried to do his own thing, and I'm sure that film is good for what it is, but
I think, honestly, seeing The Curse, which was kind of a collaboration between Benny and Nathan Fielder and a few other people, I do think he is a really good collaborator with people, and he brings a lot to the table, and he helps bolster other people's creativity. But from what we've seen so far, and we didn't watch The Smashing Machine, but just hearing the reactions to it, it does seem like you don't want him heading the whole project. Whereas Josh does seem to have a lot of vision and instinct for this stuff, and what he's poured into this film feels really well considered. Like there's so many layers to this. It's definitely going to be in my top 10 just because it's one of the most interesting films to think about from this year. The way that he is incorporating that history, the sort of texture of New York and what was happening at that time, but also the international history and where Japan was at and where the rest of the world was in comparison to the U.S. And this Jewish experience, too, in the U.S. of beginning to assimilate, but not quite being there. You're still kind of halfway there. And this feeling of like the door is cracked open, and if you try hard enough, you can push your way through and get to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
And that becoming kind of a tantalizing thought in your head. And if you're someone like a Marty, that might become a totally, driving obsession,
Mm-hmm.
You can really understand who this character is and why he is the way he is, despite this being such an over-the-top kind of fantastical movie, sort of. It is grounded in something real, and that's why it ends up being successful.
Right. It starts off as your kind of classic sports film. The guy gets to the tournament, and he's in these different matches and working his way up to try to win it. But that's the first quarter, and then after that, it's not a sports movie. For the real good portion in the center, it is not a sports movie in any way. It's just basically uncut gems, but set in the 1950s and with all the elements that you were just talking about, which I think are exposed very interestingly through the anxiety that he has.
And like Gwyneth Paltrow, I don't think we've really talked about her character.
Right.
But this kind of symbol almost of that prestige, that inner circle of society that he wants to get into, and he's able to woo her. And I think that scene where she comes to his door at the hotel in London is so great. The music, the way the music is used there is so great. And he's looking in the mirror as she embraces him. He's looking at himself, and he's just like, this is really happening. Like, I am the chosen one,
Mm-hmm.
No one from where I come from in a million years would imagine that this would really be happening to me, But she's able to embody such an interesting, fully fleshed out character because she sees through him. And his image of her is privileged actress who has gotten to the top of the world, but he's not really seeing that she had to fight for that in some way. She had to crawl up from somewhere and then fall down from the top and feel that whole, understand like maybe the emptiness of it, but also the allure of it, and that it is so quickly gone and you don't value it when you're there.
Right. And then from there become supported by this kind of villainous, capitalistic vampire, right? And so you're learning that her career is now supported by this guy who will attempt to support Marty in the same kind of way, who he at first denies, repels to the best of his ability. But once he goes through trying to do it on his own, comes back begging.
Yeah, support is a funny word. I mean, people are like trophies to him, for their symbols of his status, his power in the world.
Support in the way that a vampire would support.
Yeah.
just enough life, giving just enough life for that which he takes away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I guess in some sense, by the end, when he wins that match, that is what it represents too. It doesn't just represent him coming back around to the love of the game itself, the love of any match he could win. But it is also, that is an antidote to in some way to that figure, which whatever the Shark Tank guy's name is. It's saying, hey, you wanted me to start playing your game. And that's what Marty fell for. He fell for the game that they've invented, the capitalistic oligarchs of the world. They invented that game. Marty falls for it, thinking that was the game to win, and realizes he was playing their game all along. So when he wins this game, that means nothing. He's returning to the true game, which is just winning any mini match, no matter how quote unquote meaningless it is.
Yeah, and kind of winning the audience over, winning on your merit, on your like force of will.
Yeah. And if you're saying that it's autobiographical, that is an artist's journey too, is to not fall for the Hollywood game, but to be making your own. You're making the movie your own way. And then because you're the auteur, you're not just the pawn in Hollywood's system. So I can see that being a real struggle. And all of these guys have had to face that in various ways.
Yeah, yeah.
Otherwise, you end up making a Marvel. And that's something that's a very easy thing. We all talk about that. You watch these actors or directors come up, and then they go and they make a Marvel, and you go, what is going on here? The money was too alluring.
They played the game.
Watch Safdie brothers go and make a Marvel after this.
I can't imagine.
But yeah, top 10 will be interesting. That we're going to be doing our top 10 of 2025. So I'd be interested. We haven't talked about each other's top 10 yet. We're going to have it be a surprise when we do the recording. So I'm interested to see where Marty finds himself in that list. But a lot of other great movies came out this year. But One Battle After Another does feel like that's going to be everyone's favorite. So
it's kind of undeniable, Yeah, it did make an impact.
It did.
We'll see. That will be the next episode, doing our top 10 and also selecting our 15 films to add to our history of film list and round it out to 500 total.
That's right. 500 films over the course.
Yeah. This has been our self-taught film education, watching these in chronological order.
Mm-hmm.
And it is really fun to then go to Marty Supreme and think like, oh yeah, he is pointing back to the 70s. All this stuff that came before, After Hours, Martin Scorsese, but these kind of anti-heroes, the people that became very big after the Hays Code was lifted and New Hollywood started being given budgets and freedom. And you had your French Connections, your Godfathers, your Midnight Cowboys, all these movies about compromised, imperfect men and how they exemplified, America in some way.
Mm-hmm.
And it's still exciting to make movies like that. I'm sure some people are getting sick of so many of them. The Mastermind, One Battle After Another kind of has that as well.
Well, I mean, I had a friend who doesn't watch a ton of movies and hadn't seen a lot of the newest movies coming out in the last 5 years or so. So they went and saw Marty Supreme and loved it. And when I said, have you seen Uncut Gems? They didn't even know. They had never even heard of that movie or knew the director or anything. So,
well, if they keep making them with this degree of care and craft, they'll be kind of hard to ignore at a level, like these it does feel like a new generation, and some filmmakers like PTA feel like they are staying current. They are, keeping with that, or they've maybe kept the flame alive all along. But this new generation isn't leaning on CGI in the same way. They are putting a lot of value on practical craft and practical filmmaking in a way that it feels like audiences are responding to. Like, these films look and feel a lot more real than blockbusters have felt for the past 20 years.
Right.
Like, I think they are learning in a way that those directors that were coming up in the 2000s and the 2010s kind of got a little lost, being like, oh wow, I can do so much with CGI. Even when it's a little more invisible, it's still, you can start to notice it when you go back to those films, just how much they painted with the CGI in the background. But these guys, that's another aspect of the 60s and 70s films that they really appreciate, is it has that tactility that you can't recreate, you can't simulate,
I agree. I think that they're doing that. I think they're going to continue doing that. I think there's plenty of support for it, going to the theaters, watching it, and all that stuff. We can, I think, relax a little bit on the conversation about when a movie comes out like this. Everyone goes, movies are back, the Barbenheimer thing and that whole stuff. Yeah, let's relax on that a little bit. They're going to be okay. They're going to be okay. People are making good movies still. How about just go see them and appreciate them?
Yeah. This isn't the late 60s, early 70s when the movies made, adjusted for inflation, something like $500 million, But these are pretty big, mid-sized to large budgets that are seeing a return. There is it's a relatively small, but it is a fervent, eager audience for this stuff.
For the same reason that people became drawn again to long-form content in terms of podcasts and stuff. When you had access to so many bite-sized, scrolling social media, people suddenly were like, well, I want to sit and listen to a 3-hour conversation with somebody.
Yeah.
That's still going on, and you'll still see that. As long as the bite-sized stuff exists, to the degree that it exists, you will inevitably see, I think, a good number of people being like exhausted by that and wanting to go watch a movie in a
theater. Yeah. It's not, I'm thinking of Idiocracy. It's like, it's not just one straight line. It's like reactions. There are always reactions to what the like mainstream, what the largest sort of culture is.
Yeah.
And things. That's how we kind of get these shifts where the train kind of changes tracks. Because people start to go, oh, this thing is cool. And it's a little smaller. It's a little more exclusive. And then the crowd kind of shifts in that direction a little bit.
Yeah. I guess the one other thing to say, since this is an anxiety movie, and I don't know the next time we'll be able to talk about that. The one other thing to say, and I think this is probably a thought that people have, but because our lives generally today are more anxious, and we all sort of feel a collective anxiety in general, this is a chance to watch something more anxious. And it puts in perspective our own lives a little bit. Go, whoa, this is a crazy thing. And you come out of the theater being like,
yeah.
You get in your car and you drive in traffic and there's like somebody in the road. And because you just watched for 3 hours some maniac try to win a tennis tournament by manipulating his own friends, that person that's kind of merging ahead of you, you're a little bit like, it's all right. That's okay.
It feels counterintuitive, but it is like, yeah, I agree.
Yeah. You go and you sleep a little better that night for that while.
Yeah.
Till you get you another hit. you need another Proudland in there. Yeah. But no, it'll be fun to see what goes on. So Marty Supreme.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. And yeah, next week will be a big episode talking about a lot of different movies. But to check out more episodes and look at our Letterboxds and things, go to unauthorizedpod.com and take a look.
It's in the book. Okay, that's enough.
Copyright.
Yeah. Until next time.
Peace.